Good Saturday morning to you, and welcome to On the Mark. Alongside Mark Papa, I'm Gary Byron. Mark Papa is from Financial Resources Group. His business is in Glastonbury. You can, of course, find them online at www.frplan.com. That's F as in Frank, R as in Robert, Plan, frplan.com. By the way, he's got his own YouTube channel. Now, when you go to YouTube, just simply type in Mark, that's M-A-R-K, P-A-P-P-A, Mark Papa, 5207. And that'll take you right to Mark's YouTube channel. The other thing you could do is right on frplan.com, right on his company website, there's a link that'll also take you to the YouTube channel. And that's, by the way, an outstanding resource. Like I always say, you know, if you ever miss a previous episode, or maybe you came in halfway through it or had to leave halfway through it, what an incredible resource that is. What an incredible resource Mark Papa is. So if you'd like to sit down with him, you know, he's offered this in the past. It's a $100 gift card. There's a checklist that he's got for you. You're going to discover a lot. He's going to open your eyes to a lot of things that you thought you knew about, but maybe didn't know the entire picture. Write down this phone number. More importantly, call it 860-657-8380. Let me give it to you again, 860-657-8380. If you just missed any of those points of contact, no worry. I'm going to give it to you at least 2 more times before the show is over. Well, good morning, Mark.
Hi, Gary. How are you?
I'm about 100% better than I was last week. A little bit better. But it's Memorial Day weekend. I don't know if you have plans with your family. I know you have a son. Do you guys like parades?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, they actually just changed the parade route for that in Glastonbury, so I'm sure we'll be attending. It's a nice event. Yeah. It's a good, all-American type of thing to do with your kids and then help them remember our veterans.
Oh, yeah.
Which I think is super important.
That's what it's all about. Those who made the ultimate sacrifice. And do you any cookouts this weekend or today or any time throughout the weekend?
Unfortunately, I'm not. My plans are never. It's very hard to make plans, but I'm certain I'll get something.
Don't work. I know how hard of a worker you are. I know you're.
Yeah. Yeah. No.
I know you get.
Yeah. No,
you love your work and you're good at it.
In the very worst case, I'll be doing my own cookout. Very worst.
Oh, okay.
I love to grill. So I love to grill, and there's plenty of options for me. So we'll have to see what's going on.
Good. Well, whatever you do, I hope you are with the ones you love and have a great time. Yeah. I got some feedback during the week. It had to do with your show last Saturday morning. Compliments to you, my friend, especially when you were going over the scams. People weren't even aware of like the pig butchering. They go, I never even heard of that. And I didn't want to speak for you, but here's what the overwhelming sentiment was. I know you have a show that's kind of loosely mapped out, and I'm not going to say we shouldn't get to it. We should. But can you share maybe 3 other scams, like 2 or 3 other scams? Because I think that was that resonated very well with the audience.
Yeah, absolutely. And I really wanted to do this because so many people are vulnerable, especially people who are seniors or people who are single.
Right.
People who are a little bit lonely, people who might just be, scrolling on social media.
Or have a few bucks. Because you said something last week that I never forgot. You're like, scam artists are not going to go after the destitute. There's wasting their time. There's nothing to get there. It's, they're going to go after people with a few dollars.
They're going to go after people for a few dollars. There's this whole other. I actually learned this watching. I'm a big fan of Dateline NBC. I don't know if you like that show, but
Stone Phillips.
There was one of the episodes where the gentleman actually kills her ex-husband because the ex-husband was abusive, but he got this thing what they called hero syndrome, and she actually convinced the guy to kill him. And I think so it's a crazy story, but. So this hero syndrome thing, I was like, Mark, there's no such thing as a good hero. It's a dead hero. But yeah. So this guy, my whole point is, as men sometimes, we might feel bad for someone who is in a poorer or less fortunate position. And again, I knew an older gentleman that was actually chatting. This is through this group that I was involved in. He was telling the story to everybody about how he was chatting with a woman in Cuba, and he didn't know Spanish. So here's a guy who's probably 74, 75 years old. The woman is this beautiful, 22-year-old in Cuba. And he was sending her money. And I'm like, are you crazy? Why are you sending money? He goes, oh, well, she doesn't have the resources I do. And we're going to meet. And, I've never, and this guy actually was going to fly to Cuba to meet her. And I said, are you nuts? No, you're never going to be seen again if you do this. So that's what they call things like a romance.
Did he
scam.
go?
No. He changed his flight. I convinced him. And a few other friends of mine convinced him, like, hey, buddy, you've been duped. Once you've been duped, it's really hard because your ego gets in the way that you've actually been fooled. Okay? Because what happens is they create these long-term relationships. These are not quick deals. So they're chatting all the time, pinging all the time, saying, how's your day going all the time. And what happens is they start chatting and they're really good at getting these people engaged. And unfortunately, that's what happened. And, here's the guy starting to wire money down to this poor young woman. Today my grandma's sick. I need some help because, and then the next day would be, maybe I'm injured, or maybe, they're going to evict me. So that's exactly what they do. So they say that they, whether it's a medical bill or they have some emergency. I mean, these are all major, major red flags. And I say the first thing to us men, guys, if you're 75, there's no 22-year-old woman, unless you're Bill Belichick, okay? You're not Bill Belichick. They don't want you. They have zero interest in you. They have interest in one thing, and that's your money, okay? I would say there's a less than 1% of 1% chance that the woman you're chatting with online that's absolutely gorgeous, driving, a Mercedes or whatever they're doing, is your friend and is out to do anything good for you or your family. That is somebody out to scam you. That's someone who's never going to sit down and meet with you. That's someone who's never going to take a phone call from you. Mm-hmm. That's someone whose name isn't even real, who can't be Googled or searched. They're very good. They come up with names, Gary, that sound so real, but they're so generic that there might be 100,000 people with the same name. So you're never going to be able to follow and pinpoint this person. Some of them are even created with artificial intelligence. God only knows what they're able to do nowadays.
You've got to be kidding
Mimic
me.
your voice, everything. So they dupe you in, and they're just very, very good at getting people to cough up their money. Some of these people could be sitting in a call center or a internet chat room somewhere in the world, who they're all teaming up. They might be buying their way out of human slavery for all you know. You have no idea, but you don't ever send money online to a stranger like that. And too many men thinking that they're helping somebody out just out of the goodness of heart. We're Americans. We're generous, right? We're fortunate. We want to help people. Do stupid things like that, and that you are going to lose your money. And they're not going after that small. Once they go after that small money, they're going to start asking for bigger and bigger favors with promises that we're going to give you, if you help me out of this jam, I'll give you 10% of, let's say, my grandfather left me this piece of land that we're going to sell. I'll give you a piece of the action if you help me pay for the legal fees. And there's no land there, So I've seen a lot of these different things, or people come to me, some clients with these potential scams, and we're able to snuff them out right away. So please do not engage with these people. Delete them, erase them. Just like that fake profile who came to me last time, said she was the director of product development for this major company.
Oh, yeah, you were talking about me that last week.
And I went on LinkedIn. She's nowhere to be found. And actually, the director of product development is a completely different person located in New York City, not in Boston. So you have to, again, be vigilant, do your due diligence. One of the other ones I want to talk about is called smishing. Gary, have you ever heard of smishing before?
That I haven't, no.
Okay, so it's basically a phishing scam. So phishing is like when you get an email, and it'll say, I'm getting these, I'm sure people, hey, you owe a bill to PayPal for some part, that $84 or something like that. And you'll be like, I didn't buy that. Usually that is from an email that is very like Gmail or some strange email or some, encrypted. God only knows where it's coming from. But you click on that thing, you open it up, it's going to ask you for personal information. And people are crazy enough to put their personal information in there and say, well, I didn't pay this bill, or I'm going to fight this. You got to just delete those emails, because all they're doing is looking to get your name, your date of birth, your social security number. And you really got to do your best to protect all that stuff. Once they have that, they may have the means to even access your bank accounts, So you know how sometimes when you go to log into your bank, when you log into your bank and it'll send you a text on your mobile phone with a code? They've even figured out how to make that look real and hack that. So you're thinking you're safe. You're not. So I don't want to go too off board, but these are, this can be, you can get they could be claiming to be your bank, right? Which is what you got to be super careful of. A delivery service, or even the IRS urging you to click a link here to reschedule, or whatever the case may be. Check. But the problem is what they do is they install a virus into that system, and then what they can do is then steal all your data, and then they could recognize your bank's website and call an official number. They may with your information and steal your money. That's their entire goal. It's just to get at your information and steal.
So it's by clicking a link?
Yes, just by clicking a link that can happen. And smishing is just phishing, which is email. Smishing is done on a text because it's SMS, right? So that's what's called smishing. So you're going to get a text message, and those are things you don't want to click. You want to just save, delete, block, whatever you have to do. Learn how to do that because they're up to no good.
How do you recognize this stuff? I mean, how do you know what's authentic and what's fake?
Well,
they're so similar.
I think that the best rule of thumb is if you don't know who it is, don't engage.
Okay.
That's the best thing to do. Just like the phone calls. You get a spam call. If you don't know who's calling you, just don't pick it up. Period. I mean, but don't get sucked into this stuff because it's really easy and it happens all the time.
All right. Well, thanks for. Maybe in a future episode or two, we could just dedicate the whole shows to these scams. This is good stuff.
And it would be okay. Would it be okay if maybe I brought in an expert, someone who was knew this from a forensic level?
If you know somebody like that, that would be a great show.
Yeah, because I'm really just, Gary, as long as I can do that, I'm really just trying to create an awareness to people because I've seen these. We're starting to see this more and more. We're doing our best to protect our clients as much as we possible and create awareness.
You're doing a great service. I'm going to switch gears a little bit because we do have we had a show already mapped out for today. It was because of the popularity in discussing the scams last week that I just wanted to kind of throw that wrench into today's shows. But now, your business, Financial Resources Group, how do you approach financial planning for retirees, particularly when it comes to integrating, like, let's say, Social Security or pension or even IRA distributions, Roth IRAs withdrawal, or even converting to a Roth?
Well, this is really interesting. So you'll get somebody who had saved, let's say, $1.2, $1.3 million, okay? And then you'll have somebody, same person was making, let's say, $235K, right? Nice money. Now, okay, and luckily for that same person, they might have a pension, okay, and then a cash balance plan. And that same person will have Social Security, right? And a spouse who's got Social Security and maybe a little other income. They're most likely not going to be able to live on $235,000 anymore, okay? So it depends on, everything that we do depends on the client. So this is an actual case study that I had. But the same client also had a house that appreciated to about $1.2 million. And then they were able to sell that house and then, get a much smaller house and, lower their bills and whatever. But they basically had to take what they had saved and squeeze back into a much smaller lifestyle than they were living before. There's that type of client. That's your typical client where they have, that amount saved. And then now you have to figure out, Gary, how much money can they live on? Okay. So the first thing you have to do is sit down with them and, get the assets are important, but we have to figure out what their budget's going to be. How are you going to live? What is your expenses going to be? Is your mortgage paid off? How much are you paying on groceries? How much are you paying on entertainment? How much do you want for travel? You've got to detail all that stuff out with the client first. Once they have that down pat, then what you can do is say, okay, these are your sources of income. We use this product called Asset Map. It's wonderful because it has a visual, which I know we don't like to talk about on the radio, but it literally shows everything you have and all your income sources, your assets, your home, your insurance, everything in one page, okay? Mm-hmm. It's about a 15-page report, super simple, and it tells you, do I have enough? Where's my shortfalls? Where's my gaps? Whatever. But to do that, it doesn't take a lot of work. It really doesn't. It's just, knowing what the client has. But by doing that, then what we can do, we have that. And then we have this other software we use that is a tax planning software. And what I do is I take all their income from the tax return, all the potential sources of income, and say, if we draw the money this way, this is what your retirement looks like. So, for example, if we just said traditionally, I know I talked about tax smart planning back in the day, okay? Because, you also have this other thing when you turn 73, you have this thing called RMDs. So sometimes if you have a big IRA, what we like to do is shrink that down. So let's say both spouses are retired, and now they're going to, maybe one's collecting Social Security, one's not. Okay, so that's another thing we have to do is time their Social Security appropriately, because if let's say they want to do a Roth conversion or they want to take money out of their IRA, you don't want that colliding with your Social Security check, because that's just going to increase the taxes on that conversion or increase the taxes on your IRA withdrawals. So these are the kind of things we do. So we don't really know what to do until we hit that. So once we hit that tax planning software, I could sit down with those folks and say, okay, you're going to get money from the pension, but what if we wait on your IRA, okay, and wait on your Social Security? And, so in one of those scenarios, it'll be if you have a spouse that's older and they don't need the money, sometimes it's great because you have a younger spouse. For the older spouse to wait till 70, and then the younger spouse will get the spousal benefit when they pass, and they'll get much more than what their benefit would be.
Because they're taking it later.
Yeah. So, but they'll get the husband's portion instead of both getting it 70. If they're really well off, they can both do that. Or, sometimes we'll say, let's let the spouse crank his up, do his at 70, and let the younger spouse, who's got maybe a 6-8 year gap in age, she could start hers early, and then when he's most likely going to die first, then she could apply for his higher amount benefit as a spouse later. And it'll just max out what she's going to get from his because hers wasn't as big anyway. So it's really hard. So these are the different scenarios we go through, but you can't do it without getting to know your client and really get to know the client. So the 21-point or full checklist really, really gets us to know our client because it covers all those other bases. But on the income planning side, it really boils down to budget, then it boils down to sources of income, and then it boils down to best place to get that income. And then third, best planning, because you have tax problems in the future that are permanent, almost permanent if you don't plan ahead. So you have to do things when you have this space where you're not earning income. If you're doing Roth conversions when a spouse is working in the income, that can get very, very expensive from a tax perspective. So what we do is we show the client the spike of what that actual conversion would cost them if they do when they're working versus when they're not working. And the tax bill is a lot lower when they do it when they're not working, or even drawing that money out of an IRA in the year they're not working to replace some income and converting the other part might be a better way to go because, again, it's all to keep them in a certain tax bracket. Wow. So it'll say 12% bracket, then it says 22 bracket, then 22 goes to 24. So you want to stay within those brackets. Now, we also, as we get too crazy here, if you have a spouse who's on Medicare and you go to the next bracket, their Medicare premiums also go up. It's called the IRMA, IRRMA, IRMA. And that is where they increase your Medicare premium because you went up in income. And it's a 2-year look back. So what happens is all of a sudden you realize that your Medicare premiums just doubled because you made a mistake. So what we like to do is illustrate that for the client. Say, these are your decisions tree. We'll create like 3, 4, 5 scenarios.
Sure.
Do it this way. Do it this way. This is what happens. You do it this way. And each time we do it, we see the tax bill go down. And then we let the client decide, what's going to be the most reasonable for them.
It'll be common sense then. Just look at the one that you're going to benefit most from.
Here's the deal. This stuff is not rocket science. It just needs to be broken down for the client so they fully understand. And if your advisors aren't talking to you about this when it comes to income planning, it's not just about – anyway, you had a question.
It's a great breakdown. Folks, you're listening to On the Mark alongside Mark Papa. I'm Gary Byron. You can check out Mark online at his Financial Resources Group website, which is FR Plan, F as in Frank, R as in Robert, frplan.com. And he's just talking about that check, like a check, a plan. You can even get a
checklist.
Yeah, it's a full checklist. You can even get yourself a $100 gift card. Sit down and have a discussion with Mark. 860 657-8380. And I'll repeat all that, and I'll even give you a YouTube channel more towards the very end of the show. Maybe you can elaborate on how you identify these tax-efficient opportunities for, let's say, for Roth conversions, especially in scenarios like what you're talking about, like when a spouse retires or if both are retired. Great job.
That is a great opportunity right there. That is where and what happens is most of the time you don't have many years to do that. But if that's like even a 3-year period or a 4-year period where both spouses are retired and not yet subject to RMDs, the opportunity is awesome because you don't have that earned income. Their taxable income might only come from Social Security or maybe some small pensions or minimal withdrawals. So we can strategically help that client decide how much they can take or how much they can convert or do without moving to the higher tax bracket. And that's ultimately maximizing their income. But another thing, Gary, too, not to confuse the audience here, we have another system. Again, if this can be planned on time, let's say I'd say most people who come to me, I would say the target age we're looking for, we want to get pre-retirees and retirees. So that's where we really specialize our time. Sure. If you're 59 and you think you could retire early, you got to call me because that's where we can make the biggest impact. If you're 59 and a half or 60, that's where the biggest impact happens. Most people, we tend to wait till 66, 67. They onboard with us. It only gives us RMDs a 6-year window maybe before we can do things. But then one of the spouses has already come to us and elected Social Security. So we got to jump through all these hoops and, figure out what's going to be best for the husband and wait to 70. Maybe he wants to take his now. Sometimes they just don't care. And they just want their money now. Like you can't control that. But then from there, we could still get into that granularity to figure out, based on what you have for assets, where's the best place to pull your income? So there's actually, right on our website, there was a study done, and it's a many, many pages long, so I'm not going to bore you with it, and I won't even bore you with the source. But there's actually, they came up with 12 different income distribution methods, okay? And what we do is we try and help people pick the one that might be best for them. So the RMD method is wait till you're 73 and take out whatever the IRS says you have to take out, okay? And that's one method. Then there's like the constant floor method. There's the constant percentage method. There's an inflation-adjusted method. So my point is what we're here to do, Gary, is figure out which one of those 12 income distribution methods are going to be best for the client. I can assure you that most people, unless they were trained, I'm one of 150 advisors trained to know this stuff. I don't know how many of the advisors are talking to the clients about the 12 ways to distribute their assets. I found out the other day that there's 95,000 CFPs on the planet. 95,000. How exclusive is a club of 95,000, if you want my opinion? And I don't really care if they get mad at me because the bottom line is that, unfortunately, I'd rather be one of the 150 advisors that knows the full checklist, that knows these 12, income distribution methods. And by doing that, we can actually help clients capture, instead of the 4% rule that everybody's hugging for a long time because it helps them keep more fees, revenue, and that's why they love the 4% rule, is we can get them up to 25% more income, sometimes even more depending on the strategy, and actually lessen their chance of running out of money. So 25% more income, lessen your chance of running out of money, and by the way, pay less in taxes.
I mean, it really sounds fascinating. It also sounds like these strategies give retirees both security and flexibility. So before we wrap up, I really have about 2 minutes left. Final advice for retirees that are listening today?
Well, I think the main thing is let me, come in, give me a call. Let's go through this full checklist. Let's go through all the little pitfalls, the little things that can jump out of the weeds and bite you. Make sure your power of attorney is working correctly or it's up to date so that if, God forbid, you need it, your bank will accept it. Make sure you have the language available or ready and the forms ready so that your power of attorney would work with your Social Security in the event you got injured or, there was a problem where someone had to act on your behalf. Sit down with me so we can figure out, not me telling you, selling, teaching, preaching. Let's sit down and figure out what you want out of your retirement. And That's really the only way to do it, is to ask lots of questions. With the magic of the full checklist, Gary, I'm talking right now. I don't talk. I ask questions. I ask questions. I ask questions. And I think in the beginning when we first started the show, I was frustrating you because I was interviewing you. You weren't interviewing me. And interesting enough, we want to work with folks, not interrogate, sit down, a very calm situation.
Well, you got to customize it. You have to ask questions.
Right. We have to know what stuff is done. Most people I ask, how old's your estate plan? Oh, I haven't done it for 15 years or 30 years ago. So it's like, well, why don't we work on getting that done?
Somebody can get a $100 gift card really quickly. How do they do that?
Basically, you come in. So my intro meeting is a 30-minute, I call it the goals meeting. We try and figure out what you want. It's important to me, not what I want from you, what you want from me.
But they got to meet with you.
They sit down and meet with me. I ask them to bring in these documents. I know it's a pain to get. Show me your home insurance. Show me a tax return. Bring me your statements so I can look in the language to see how that will work with your power of attorney. And also bring in legal docs, right? And then the last thing is come in, sit down, we'll go through the full checklist. And whether you like me or not, or whether if we find nothing and nothing needs to be fixed, I'm going to say, hey, go on your merry way. If there's something that needs to be fixed, a small thing, fine, I'll fix it for you. You still get to keep the $100 gift card. And half the people do that, and I'd say the other half of the folks will come on board in some way, shape, or form.
If you'd like more information, head on over to his website, www.frplan.com, and from there you could link up to his YouTube channel. But if you're on YouTube, just head on over to his page at Mark Papa, MarkPappa 5207. And if you'd like to schedule that consultation and get your $100 gift card, as he was just mentioning, give him a call today, 860-657-8380. Again, 860-657-8380. And the content of this interview is based on general financial planning principles, and the provided web references, specific details about Mark Papa or Financial Resources Group, LLC, are fictional for the purpose of this exercise. As no direct information was available, always consult with a qualified financial advisor for personalized advice. Just a little disclaimer. All right, folks, enjoy your Memorial Day weekend. For Mark Papa, I'm Gary Byron. Thank you so much for listening to On the Mark. Until next weekend, have a good one, everybody. So long.